regional mechanisms are in place. We even have standby forces, the East Africa standby force. We even have the African Union architecture standby. You know, all these big names and big, but with all that, we still have the big thorn, all zooming on them, and then the role of the international community. So Oscar, I think every period, every time, they have their contribution to the conflict of Africa. The center of conflict is DRC. DRC, like I said last time, the challenge is twofold. One, the Kinshasa. They don't have a strong government in Kinshasa. But secondly, they're also endowed with a lot of resources. And the neighbors look like, why can't we partake? And when you are partaking, then it becomes illegal. Then people are forming. There are so many warlords around us. Every small area has a warlord. They have their own army. And all these names you are all mentioning on the table here. You have now, because there are too many, even abbreviating them. Why do we have so many armies in Africa, so many guns, so many blades, so much fire? Why? It's because we lack governance that can manage to harness our resources and be able to compete even as a bloc, whether as ESC, whether as African Union, to the international face. Now we are running like a headless chicken. You're running here, you're running there, we are mentioning names. Look, Tshisekedi is here today, but he'll not be there tomorrow. We've had so many governments changing. But how come that even with the changes, we are not getting the question of DRC being answered? So sometimes it's not about who is at the head. It's bigger than that. So that's my take on this. And I'm happy if we can hear more conversations of SADC, joint SADC EAC summits. I think maybe the solution lies there, because these are the big boys in the region. If they can sit and agree, they are the ones who know where the procurement of ammunition is, the latest state-of-the-art bombs and all this. So they can, if we can hear that SADC has had a summit with the EAC summit and they've agreed on minimum, not 100%, but a minimum. For so there is peace. It's very painful, Oscar, let me conclude, to seeing women and children. A woman is carrying a child on the back, a blanket and a mattress on the head, then a child breastfeeding, then there's another one in the stomach. And then some of them are shot in the camps. Some angry guys come and just raise them off like they are flies. There's a lot of wastage of life and lack of protection of civilians. But the big boys are now talking the tough, I can fight, I'm ready to fight, but you are killing your own people.
Yeah. Lydia, Roger in Kampala commends you for saying the name correctly, Tshisekedi, because last week we were miserable. I want to conclude the topic with Felix Kaiura Safari, but listeners are doing good. Richard in Bar, I should tell you, Yusuf has already sent me screenshots of Dan Gatler, born 23rd December 1973, estimated 1.5 billion his fortune by Forbes. So listeners can also check out Wikipedia and learn more about this person. He's an Israeli billionaire. So the misery, I beg your pardon?
That is 1 billion, he's not a billionaire.
I don't know what you mean by only. But
billionaires have too many billions.
You have 1.5 and you're a billionaire.
So the misery in
he's worth more than that.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's worth more than 1.5. His business, you can't.
He's worth more than 1.5.
You cannot disclose what you have.
Yeah.
We have IGAD,
But to you, Felix, on the ground in eastern DRC, it is the suffering people are going through. What will stop it?
Honestly, Oscar, like both Honorable Abdu and
or maybe should I ask, do you think M23 will form a government, offer social services, or
no? Honestly, to be honest, in my opinion, when actually beginning with the humanitarian crisis right now, they are incapable of managing what is you may refer to as a humanitarian crisis. And when you're talking about Eastern Congo, you're not talking about you are focusing purely on North Kivu and South Kivu, But I want you to remember that today, I think a friend of mine was texted me yesterday, and he was, they were welcoming the UPDF in Bunia, that is Ituri province, and everyone thinks the suffering is only in North Kivu. The Bahema have been massacred for the past 3 months. It's becoming so worse.
Who are those?
They are called, not Mai, they are called, the Bahemas are in Ituri. And in Ituri, by the way, they speak, these are Lutoro speaking people, the Bahemas. They speak Lutoros, they are cousins across the border. These guys in Intoloko district, they are called the no, not Bamba, there is Batuku. Very good. So the Batuku is actually...
Batuku, you have one in Parliament.
Exactly, and actually has been accused of... but like Chinyarwanda speakers, Oscar, the other ones are Lutoro speaking or Lunyachitala speaking. And right now they are being massacred much more than the other ones.
Why?
By,
By who and why, yes?
One, there is state-inspired violence that local militias are either supported by the state or they act on their own against other tribal. So you have tribal clashes that sometimes are supported by foreigners, sometimes are supported by the own government. They fight. These are you need to appreciate that for them to survive. Or violence in Congo is in so many ways. For example, what is in Ituri is not in Chisangani. It's not in South Kivu or North Kivu. They are different. But what is clear right now...
But it is said that President Tshisekedi came to power having promised to remove Rwanda from Congo.
Interestingly, the chairman of the Electoral Commission, which was also claimed to have been flawed, is the current head of M23. That's the funniest bit of it.
But people
political head.
Friends can fight.
Exactly. That's true. And that's why I wanted people to appreciate that at least we are looking at majorly M23 as a crisis, or beyond the so-called who is where and who is supporting who. What is very important is that right now, the conflict in Congo is going to not only bring to light our own failed so-called integration. I'll give you an example. The major pusher, the major mover in ESC, where our headquarters are as East African Community, is Tanzania. Tanzania, they chased the East African Standby Force from Congo. Exactly, but Tanzania remained. Meanwhile, Tanzania is on the side of the Kinshasa government. Now, you are having SADC, which includes Tanzania, and yet Tanzania is also in East African Community. So I don't know if our regional blocks are actually going to remain the same way, because now you're talking about, today they have decided to have SADC ESC meeting, which is very good, but before that, where is Burundi standing? Where is Tanzania standing if they belong to both SADC and what? And the East Africa?
Yeah.
What is the problem? That can't be a problem.
Because now, SADC has been allowed to come to Congo by the government.
Of Congo.
The East African Community, where Congo itself belongs. No, but the East African Standby Force is not in Congo.
No,
it's not in Congo.
I think there is a problem with Mr. Kaibura. Yes. Because Uganda is part of the East African Community.
Yes.
But it was allowed by Kinshasa to be in Congo.
It is not in Congo as a regional bloc. It is in Congo as a country.
Does it matter?
No, listen, by the way, today, I'm even happy.
The sovereign powers remain with the host country.
For example, even the country itself you're talking about, Congo, belongs to both. So the issue here is, where is its loyalty? That's my point.
So there should be no conflict.
And today, the UPDF has also actually been hailed because it has stopped a few of those same clashes in Ituri. I don't know if also that's where also the ADF is, but what I know is that it's been hailed for that.
Thank you so much. Let's stop for a quick break, and then we'll continue discussion after the break. Welcome back from the break. This is the Capital Gang. We've had a discussion on Congo, East Congo, and then I'll allow Angela just a final conclusion on that one.
Not so much a conclusion, though I was talking to Yusuf here that if you follow the thread of his arguments, really, and Abdu's about interests, where does all the minerals get traded?
In the international market.
Gold, for example, last week had hit the highest ever price, right? So a lot of the pressure you're seeing there in DRC, like Abdu says, is competing interests, but actually the markets for gold, coltan, and it is basically a scramble for resources.
Yeah.
And I thought the pressure on Rwanda, if I could make this final argument and go to what Adonia Ibare, who is in Tanzania, is saying, is that the pressure on Rwanda and others is that Rwanda is the only government that has got real, if you like, nativist interests. I think even a lot of the resources that anyone says is going through Rwanda is repurposed for the security of the state, and the reason for that is quite obvious. So I think the other players only benefit from this unregulated access to Congo's minerals, and they do not want a strong actor with more native interests there. But that said, I texted Ambassador Adonia, who is in Dar es Salaam for the summit. I said we're on the gang here, and asked him what expectations that he has. He says they're soon starting, and they want a cessation of hostilities as a deal at the beginning. But you can see, Oscar, it means that the big picture issues we are discussing here will be pushed aside, yes.
And stop the conflict.
Yeah, but you see, by the time the summit meets, it has gone on, you know. Because the ministers, these Adonias, should have discussed and agreed positions, and these guys are going to meet for 2-3 hours, really to come up with something which has already been worked upon.
Hopefully.
Honorable
Katuntu, once again, we have 3 lawyers in the studio. Let's start with the senior counsel, Abdu Katuntu. So after a big discussion here on the decision of when I say Supreme Court, people say Constitutional Court. When I say Constitutional Court, others say Supreme Court. So now I'm learning to say Supreme Stroke Constitutional Court. Yes, so that they don't say anything. Then President Museveni responded very quickly, castigating that decision. What's your opinion on that? Or should I say, what are his issues and what's your opinion on them?
First of all, it is everybody's right, whether it's me, whether President Museveni, to
have an opinion.
In a judgment. So you cannot fault President Museveni.
President Trump has opinions.
Yes, you can't fault him because he's quarreling about that judgment. You can't, because we do that every day. We get excited and we are happy. We congratulate the court. Others will get angry with the decision. What is important, however, is for the president to respect the decision, or for anybody. You may disagree with it. It is legitimate to disagree with it, but you have to respect the decision. That's the most important thing, and that is the only requirement. So anybody quarreling with the judgment, yes, you can quarrel with it. You can be happy with it, congratulate it. I saw the president of Uganda Law Society bathing CP water and in the shower is a poi whatever is saying, congratulating the Chief Justice and so on. That is okay. But now that it is there, what will the president or government do? Because that decision, that judgment made the number of proposals or faulted the executive and parliament on a few issues which have to be sorted out. One, if I read and and I think I appreciate the Honorable Chief Justice's judgment, was like, if you want to have this as a court, you need to have a legal requirement for qualification. For example, members of the General Court Martial, because they are going to interpret the law and take decisions, they should certainly be learned in the interpretation of the law. And that is very, very significant in my view, and that the executive and parliament must address. UPDF cannot say, well, we can't do this, because UPDF has accounts, doesn't it have? Do they employ professional accountants to do the job? I think they do not so. UPDF has engineering or civil engineering tasks. Do they employ engineers to do the job? Yes, they do. So if you have a legal challenge or a legal obligation to do it, why don't you recruit people, train them, and then they handle those legal tasks within the army? So these are really, really legitimate interests, and to me, they are so logical, very, very logical, and the reforms are absolutely necessary. But there's one thing which the judgment seemed to have been silent as I read it. You see, a court-martial should be adjudicating what we call martial law. But now, it is adjudicating penal code, civilian law, we'll call it, and so on. So, what is unique about this that you need this sort of court? What is unique about? Is it that the soldiers now interpret this law better than the civilian court? Because you see, the world all over, you can declare an area emergency and declare martial law. And then if you say martial law, then the marshals take it up. And then that would be a legitimate court martial because it is under martial law. And the circumstances are such that the situation has to be governed, not normally. So that's why you have an emergency or a martial law, and there are laws in place that provides for circumstances under which such a situation can happen. And what you can't say you are having two standards of adjudication of cases. If it's the penal code, it's the penal code. So you can't say the court martial will decide this different from the ordinary court. When you are trying to interpret the same law, it becomes very different, especially if you have all of them are under one constitution. So President Museveni and the executive and Attorney General, of course, should be thinking about what are the necessary reforms which they should bring to Parliament and we enact. Unfortunately, there is a lot of quarreling, more than trying to appreciate the judgment and say, okay, now that they have decided this way, what do we do? Because all of us should respect what we call constitutionalism. And the Constitution governs us, whoever you are. It doesn't matter whether you have red collar or you have no sleeves. We are under one Constitution. So the quarrel, people should be, well, they may not be happy with it, but that is the constitutional situation we have in, and let us adhere to the decision of the court and do the necessary reforms. The quarreling should stop. There's no need for quarreling anymore. This thing of this is unacceptable. I mean, what are you going to do? Are you going to overturn the Constitution, or are you going to overturn the decision of the court?
And it is a delayed judgment in any case. Lydia, another lawyer in the studio, I guess you gave it some attention at caucus yesterday.
Yes. Yes, the caucus yesterday in Entebbe discussed on the issue of the ruling.
I hope they had read it.
If we have not read, we have to open.
And I said I hope they had read
But
it. I was being sincere.
Oscar The role of Parliament, like colleagues have said, is to legislate or pass laws. And in this case, zooming into the ruling, there are areas that require legal attention for the Parliament to address, and also the executive. Fortunately, or unfortunately, already the UPDF Act has been before Parliament and the executive for amendment. For other amendment issues, or realigning it to the current needs of the UPDF. So what happened yesterday, given the recent ruling, one of the resolutions was to withdraw the UPDF amendment bill from Parliament. The last time I had actually had was at the first Parliamentary Council, but I think it had now moved to Parliament.
No, it was already with us.
So we have resolved as caucus, so that cabinet, the relevant structures of government, withdraw that amendment bill. The intention is to now incorporate, because the court martial is provided for in that act, and the questions and the challenges about the court martial are within that act. So we have passed a resolution as caucus to withdraw the bill, so that the Attorney General or the chambers that is relevant to this can now make the necessary amendments aligned to the requirements of the ruling, so that then now it can go to Parliament when we have already incorporated the areas that require amendment. That's one. The second one, we also listened to the issues that were raised in the ruling, and some of their conversations around some of the following issues is to be able to differentiate what we call service offenses. Service offenses are those offenses or crimes that are committed by serving officers in the line of duty. So those ones, we need to list them and be able to explain them, so that they are distinct and known, away from other offenses, like my colleagues have said, that are provided for under the penal code of the laws of our country. And what we also discussed was to say that the court martial or any courts or subordinate courts in Uganda should be aligned to the provisions of the Constitution to reflect the tenets of a fair hearing, which are clearly provided for in our Constitution, and that it's not only it should be seen, but also be officially listed that this is what tenets of a fair hearing should constitute, and be able to reflect in all courts of law in our country. And to also clearly show that the military courts, as amended, should be a subordinate court, the civilian court, to provide for an appellant opportunities for those who are not satisfied, so that it is aligned to the appellant structures of the courts of Uganda. So that was also we were able to discuss. So then on the membership of the court, because the moment you say it is a court, it should also be aligned to what constitutes a court in the Constitution of Uganda or in the laws of Uganda. Therefore, we in the amendments, they will what is in the UPDF Act is that to be in the court martial or president of the court martial just have to be at the rank of a lieutenant colonel.
Yeah.
We are going to improve on that, so that it is also aligned to what the Constitution or the law provides for, the standard or the competence of somebody that leads the court, qualifications, so competencies. That's what I want to say. And that will be drawn from what is provided for under the Judicial Service Commission, so that there's also that advice and relationship to set standards. So that's also going to be part of the area of conversation, so that the UPDF has serving officers who are lawyers, but that is not enough. They will have to be subjected to the standard of having capacity and qualifications to be able to hold a court. Then another issue is court martial. I'm talking about court martial.
Yes.
In line with a fair hearing. whether it is a serving office or not, and we will be able to also differentiate between any other offense but also service offenses, so that those things are clear. And to be able to also distinguish between disciplinary, disciplinary measures in any service, like, because we also have disciplinary measures in all institutions of government in Uganda. Parliament has a committee that handles the issues of rules and privileges. So even for them, they should be able to differentiate between disciplinary action of the serving officers as opposed to crimes, offenses of crime, or service offenses that would subject you to the rigors of a court setting. So those ones, we say that they should be able to be explained and make that difference very clear. Because disciplinary, you can be punished, you can be dismissed. That should be another structure. You can be demoted, or even there's what they call put on kateve, for disciplinary action. But that should be also distinct and listed as disciplinary structure of the issue. No, you cannot mix the two. It can be problematic. But the elephant in the room, which even took us up to what we are discussing now, is the issue of civilians
in that court.
Of civilians that either abet or support or work with service men or women to commit crimes that are related to the military, whether you are armed. That one is the elephant in the room. How do you deal with civilians who are abetting crimes that are related to servicemen or services in the realm of the service? That debate has to not be pushed under the carpet. And that's why we were discussing, for us in the caucus, we said, actually, I'm one of those that debate. This matter should not have winners and losers. People are just stamping this one as one. We are running a country. When there's a problem, nobody wins, nobody loses. We all lose or we should all win. So there should be a debate on how the civilian courts, if it is civilian courts, are going to deal with civilians that commit heinous crimes, even when they are provided for in the penal code, but in the manner that also gives fairness to the victims. And last week I talked about it. If you are going to have this management of cases that take years, people don't feel that it just has been served. Once it is delayed, it has been denied. So they also have work to do on that one. But the beauty of it going forward is that now people are sitting now in meetings. There will be meetings with the judiciary. Finally, they will end up in Parliament, the Ministry of Defense or the UPDF with the Attorney General's chambers. There must be meeting because we are serving Uganda. We do not want to hear about losers or winners. We want to have a winning country and everybody doing their work. The elephant in the room are those crimes being handled by civilians but using ammunition or using lethal weapons that are a preserve of the servicemen. That must be sorted.
Yeah.
You've heard about the pangas, you have heard about murders.
Thank you, Lydia.
Expeditiously, we want
Yusuf,
a fair hearing.
On my microphone. In addition to your comments, you should also respond to Lydia on whether I should call it normal courts, cannot handle such cases.
No, they can handle such cases. They should.
I didn't want you to answer.
But the issue is,
because of time,
our history has not shown that they give it the attention that is due, and people suffer.
There's
and the crime grows.
There's some case in court right now. The name has escaped me. The wife who's accused of having killed her husband with the help. Katanga. That's a case in court. It's not in court martial.
Before you go for the microphone, I really want to put in a case for the civilian courts here. One of the most heinous crimes ever committed in this country was the bombing during the World Cup finals in which year was that?
2010.
2010.
2010.
Yeah.
there was a proper trial presided over by Judge Owinyi Doroden as a High Court judge. Within a reasonable time, there were convictions, and how many people died in that one?
70-something.
Over 70-something.
an absolute act
As
of
of now, I've never had a public complaint about that prosecution and the way they conducted it. It's not that really there is a virtue. No. Of course, yes, there could be some weaknesses here which can be addressed, but it's not that the civilian courts are not competent or they are so much clogged that they cannot address it.
Yusuf.
Oscar.
That is the conversation at the table, and I've said here there are no losers or winners.
Lydia, you
There are people that have complaints of overlaid cases of that
Yusuf.
nature.
Oscar, I want to say that the Museveni's military court-martial is a remnant of his
son.
and his son is a remnant of his
When
five
somebody
year.
says and his son, he has posted on a, 'cause I can't even read it on here. Posted your picture in it on
Oscar,
on X.
This is a remnant, and Museveni kept it on the side as a constant reminder to everybody in this space that we are governed by the military. It's just one of those little things that you need to return on the side, to often throw in people's faces that, hey, by the way, I can take you here.
Yeah.
That's the only function it serves, and it's not a legal question. We're clear cut in the space of politics. This man has to constantly remind Ugandans that I am a soldier. Remember when there was there were daddy landslides, and the man showed up with a rifle? These are landslides. You remember that story? So a constant reminder that
To be short.
yes, a constant reminder to the country that we run a military government, and if you mess with us, we have a thing we kept on the side where we'll try you. And this is what he's doing. But I write in The Observer this week that this wasn't a judgment for Museveni and his son. They can say whatever they want. This is a judgment for this country. It's a judgment for Uganda and a soon-to-be former president, Yoweri Museveni. Right, so the judges, the justices of the Supreme Court, even when they know this man appointed them and controls them to a degree, they said we need to put something on the books for the future of this country. And this is at that point where this country is trying to reconstruct itself. You know, Oscar, nowadays I'm on a mission of pleading with Yoweri Museveni to give Uganda a chance when he still can. Because at 87, when all your contemporaries are gone, chances are high that you don't have so much time left. So I'm on a mission pleading with him. But officially, as you said, but unofficially, he's more than that.
He could be less.
He doesn't know when he was born.
He doesn't know. I think he's much more. But anyway, you're draining from the point I'm making. I am pleading with Yoweri Museveni that give Uganda a chance when you still can. And what the judges did for us is to start the process of giving Uganda a chance to return to absolute constitutional law. Right? So it is in that context they give us a judgment for posterity, for their own posterity as men who held this bench for some time, but also men and women, but also trying to reconstruct Uganda, revive the thing called Uganda. And you know, one of the things that I don't know how to say, you know how they say in Uganda, and Chibatuddemu, Kuruno Chibatuddemu, because you see, Museveni loves the facade that he's a Democrat, governs by constitution, a law-abiding leader. That's the thing he loves, and he chases for a very long time. But what happened this time is that a section of those institutions of government which are conscripted, from parliament to the police force to prisons, what has happened is that one of the arms of government, which is a key arm, said we need to do something different. I think they would have found arguments somehow for continuity of the court-martial. They would have found arguments somehow. Just as they found arguments for the delay in giving us the ruling, 4 years, maybe much more. But this time they said, no, let's be fair and give this to the country. Now what has happened is that all those people don't know what to do. From the CDF to Yoweri Museveni to the Attorney General to Uganda Police Force to prisons. Because you see, the Attorney General said he needs more time to read the judgment. I don't know what he's reading. Now, and one of the men I pity most is Chiwa Chwonka, because this is a judgment given by his friends.
The judges, just are his friends. He hangs out with them. Or even he contributes to their appointment. Now, and this is the Supreme Court. There's no other place to go. Now Chiwa Chonuka doesn't know what to do.
Unfair to Chiwa Chonuka, really.
Chonuka doesn't know where to
You have a judgment like that. You have to study
because
and
he-
see the implications. Because you
he has.
There is somewhere else they can go. They are going to go to the caucus.
No,
Just explain
no,
what is
Oscar, you
happening.
need to protect me.
You are protected.
No, we also need to protect
But also,
somebody
we
who is
also-
not here.
We also
But
need to give
I agree with
information
you.
and protect him.
I agree with
now
you.
he's
Not here. We have to protect him also.
To
Honorable
use-
Semuju, I invited the AG Chiriwa Chonuka, and he will come to Ghana.
Yeah, to use Lydia Onyeto's favorite term, Chiwa Chonuka is running around like a headless chicken. He doesn't know what to do. So, I think the challenge for him is how do you constitutionally or democratically disrespect this judgment?
As Abdul dissents, Semuju is saying, I agree with you.
Now he's in a pickle.
That's not
the right
true.
thing.
Chiwa Chonuka is in a pickle. How do you constitutionally and democratically disrespect this judgment? You see, they all understand that
You are
Museveni-
putting bad faces. It's not fair.
They all agree that
But
Museveni-
Oscar,
Guys,
also
also acting in
respect
bad
to our
faith.
listeners.
You wanted the
I have just
military to continue
given, I was
trying
given over
civilians.
5 minutes to explain
And you-
what is
and I think you
happening.
finished your part.
And the briefing we did not, but now you are undoing. So why did we come
What,
to
what
this
am I
show?
supposed to
So
like
do you come here
sustain?
to
Do you
consume
come-
what you are
No,
saying?
we're giving
Lydia?
information.
And we
You
disagree with you.
You
So
keep
you're
giving information.
disagreeing that the Attorney General has put up teams to discuss
Oscar,
and to give you answers.
No, we are
Are you
saying
disagreeing with that?
But we are saying the
You are-
same
you are now
thing.
trying to demean
You are
him
agreeing,
when I've actually
you are
told
agreeing
you
that
what's
he's
happening.
running around, and that's what he's
No, that's
saying.
not what I said. No.
Yes.
The running around was what's happening in Congo. Don't mix debates. I think you
I
can
said I
correct
used
that.
your favorite phrase.
You
I
can
just,
tell
I just used your
Semuju.
favorite phrase. Running like
When did I use
like
it?
headless chicken. You used it like
It's in context.
okay.
it's in context.
Oscar,
On
the
that
point
note,
the
yes.
point I'm trying to make is
One-
this.
one more.
The point I'm trying to make is this.
No, but you should not abuse
that
the
Yoweri
podcast forum
Museveni
like this one. We
loves
shouldn't.
loves the facade,
last sentence.
loves the idea that is a democratically bound leader. He respects the Constitution. Now,
Okay.
the men who work for him also love that facade. But now they are put in a position where they have to respect the Constitution.
We'll go with your books around it. Let's talk for
and now
a
they're
break,
struggling to do it
and then
the
we'll
right
have
way.
Semuju and
And they
Angela
will
and
not.
Felix.
We have told you they will not.
Welcome back from the break. This is the Capital Gang. We're getting to the end of it. Richard again in Barra says he's following the gang on X Spaces. That's Twitter Spaces, so you can follow that as well if you don't have your radio to hand. Edgar Tabar on X, formerly Twitter, says East African leaders are gathering in Dar es Salaam to do the things the same way for the last 3 decades, expecting different results. That's him. So, Honorable Semuju, on I'm trying to think, where were we?
Me, I know.
You know, where were we?
You see, Oscar,
So the president contested,
In the-
and
in
Abdul
the-
says everyone has an opinion. Can I
in
have
the
an
last
opinion on
election,
it? Yes.
when we are processing electoral-related laws, the Electoral Commission had issued a roadmap. The Secretary General then of NRM came before Parliament. All the actors were uncomfortable. And for her, she was happy. So I asked her, doesn't it bother you that you are the only one who is happy with what the Electoral Commission is doing? Government is very big. Even the court martial itself under Mugabe exists. But you have only the father and the son. They are the only ones who are complaining. Why doesn't that bother them? That General Museveni and his son, General Moses Kainerugaba, they are the ones, only two. I have not heard any minister. I have not heard, including Mugabe, the chairman of General Court Martial, they are all not complaining. But only the father and the son. So, and why are they the only ones complaining?
Let's give you information. 1 minute.
Ibra, by virtue of the offices they hold, if there is a matter in Ichira municipality,
yes,
people will start asking, why is it Semuju asking? Because you are the area MP.
You should have
Museveni is the president of
You should
Uganda.
have had a press conference by the
Moses
minister,
is the CDF.
by the Minister of Defense, because he supervises Museveni's son.
But the supervisor
They are all
of the
quiet.
court
He's a
martial
lawyer.
is the CDF.
Minister of Justice.
The Minister of Justice, the Attorney General.
But
So only the
Semuju,
father
the
and the
executive,
son, Lydia,
is
if you can
led by
allow
the
me,
president.
only the son, the father and the son, they are the ones who are complaining because they think they own this country. They are personally affected.
You know when-
Offices they hold.
You know when that Josephine Barra was saying, Semuju has spoken without saying the word Museveni. It was a bit too early.
Oscar, the first question you asked Katund was that Museveni has responded. So you wanted me to discuss Kagame? Are you not the one who said that Museveni has responded? And I'm now debating him. You're saying now he's talking about
president of
Museveni.
Uganda.
Okay, Kagame.
The president of
That was the moderator said. That Museveni has responded.
So-
Abdu, what is your opinion
And
on
Moses
Museveni's
the
opinion?
CDF.
So Semuju,
So-
he has his opinion is dissenting, but Lydia has given an update saying, okay, they've in the caucus it was accepted, and they are putting structures around.
And I'm coming
address
to that, but I wanted to give context. Why the anger? The anger is that General Museveni and his son, General Moses Kainerugaba, the only person who has been quiet is General Salim Saleh, one whom has 3 generals in the military controlling the country. He hasn't joined them in complaining. That in itself is a problem. Even the way you constitute the military, that you one family, this is your military. Either people are running to Saleh or running to Muhoozi or running to the father. Now coming to the specific issues, as I consumed the judgment myself, the judges said you cannot have a court, or that court cannot be, they cannot guarantee fair hearing once it derives its decision and is supervised by the high command. That I read in the judgment. So Abdu and other lawyers can help me. So even if you try to re-establish the same court, it will not be constitutionally okay. And then you get the high command, as the son said, will sit in the high command, not even this caucus of Lydia or cabinet, but they will sit in the high command, and already they have instructed, and that's why Isfu was right. As they go to sit in the high command, he also hinted that we have instructed the Minister of Defense and Attorney General to begin running around like headless chicken. So these ones are supposed to translate their anger into a bill before a parliament. That's the only work they have. You, all of you NRM people who have come here, I am angry. My son is also angry. Can you translate our anger into a bill and then you send it to parliament? That's where we are headed. And then Oscar.
Yeah.
Again, the Supreme Court said, if they would want to maintain, because what the Supreme Court did was to declare unconstitutional the sections of the APDF Act that set up the court martial. So those sections are no longer in the law. The court martial is not there, even for their own disciplinary issues. But court said, if you are interested in re-establishing it, it must be a disciplinary committee whose sentencing must not go beyond dismissing people in the military or cautioning them. But also, if you are re-establishing it, that court martial. So if you want a court, because now it must be a disciplinary committee whose offense is already almost determined by a court. If you want to go beyond that, you may request the establishment of a division at the High Court to try military people, like you have the International Crimes Division. So you will no longer have, and that's how my understanding of the judgment was, that it's no longer possible to recreate a court martial. The parameters is that we appear as MPs, we appear before Judge Abdul Katuntu, who is the head of our disciplinary unit in Parliament. But Abdul cannot begin trying other people because they have abused the Parliament, and then Abdul summons them to come to Parliament, and he subjects them to disciplinary hearing, and then he sends them to Luzira.
I'm going somewhere.
So that's what the court said, that because what they should be doing now is to get Parliament to enact a law that allows them to re-establish disciplinary units from wherever they exist, only to deal with discipline, either demote, remove a rank, dismiss. So if they attempt to go, and that's why I agree with the Fox Odoy, I hope he will hold his position.
Yeah.
He said, there is nothing to amend. Everything was made very clear. The only option they have is to overthrow the constitution, and
or to train soldiers to be.
No, even if they train them, as long as they are soldiers, because they even said if you want to have a normal court where judges are put there by the Judicial Service Commission, because you cannot be...
You can't have someone who's looking for promotion.
Yes, and appointed by High Command to be a judge. So it is no longer possible constitutionally to re-establish the court martial.
Let's go to Angelo.
I don't think that is the legal position. Because any country can establish any courts of its choosing if it's legislated. And it looks like the process is underway now, from what Honorable Lydia has said, to look at the issues generated by the court, subject it to the scrutiny of the Right Honorable Attorney General and his team, and then bring it via the formal process of the in Parliament, and then we should get a new law that properly situates the General Court Martial within the system of courts, and then I think we shall accept this jurisprudence and when we go on. My understanding, Oscar, because I have read jurisprudence from court martials. I think in law school, much of that came from Nigeria when it was under military rule. But I guess even when you look at the period when Uganda was under a military government under General Amin, the courts were operational and there was jurisprudence there, because the judges at the time were not civilian judges in the real meaning of it, because you had a military government in charge. But I wanted to say that the issue here is political and historical in nature. And I want to disagree with Yusuf and Semuju. I recently started writing an article about what is the Ugandan project about. Because, countries will say, like Trump now says, let's make America great again. There must be some direction of travel, a national project that we can all...
There's some European countries meeting this weekend to make Europe great again.
Yes, so there's countries that suddenly define the historical moment, will say, okay, this is the direction we're going. And in Uganda, if you look at the political conversation, the cultural conversation, there doesn't seem to be that one project that Uganda is about. However, what Ugandans all agree, and I think they are all bounded by his history on this matter, is how can we have, maybe in our generation, a peaceful transfer of power, something we have never had. Now, in the context of what's going on, in civilian military relations, I thought that the court judgment was important because it hinted in some ways about whether or not the military can be subordinated to civilian authority. Because that's one of the issues of, peaceful handover of power, right? And to the extent of the behavior of the establishment right now, the military itself, and the NRM as a political party, they're moving in the direction of subordinating those courts in a proper manner to civilian authority. That's a good thing. Now, let me address the issue that Semuju raised about the comments of the president and the head of the army. During Tarahisita, the General Kainerugaba said something about the historical mission of the dichotomy there, which is about this historical pathway on. Should we have a peaceful transfer of power? Now, it would be wrong, and I think even dangerous, to ignore the place of the military today in the structures of our government, and if you take those structures away, in our society. That is just who we are. And the reason why the General Court Martial has such a big place in our society is because of that history. Like, I witnessed a field court martial execute 3 soldiers in Moyo when I was perhaps like 11 years old. And that was the time of general lawlessness and crisis. There are parts of the country today where field court martials are the only way to signal to people who are armed or committing violent crimes that there is law and order. Here in Kampala, when we had a spate of robberies and killings, and I think it's 2002, okay, when the military moved in to clean that, there was a sigh of relief because that actually provides a sense. Yes. In fact, a lot of lawyers I spoke to. Now I want to defend this.
Hold on.
Let me defend this. Let me defend this, because I think you can't ignore that you are living in a country, okay, that historically has been in violent competition. And the sense of order we enjoy today is the result of that violence being commanded by the simple fact that the military is behaving the way it is. You see, I can sit here and say we want civilian order, but you cannot ignore the historical truth that our sense of so-called peace, okay.
So they should subject.
They only have your microphone.
No.
Complete.
But you see.
Yes.
But you
disrupt
see.
his line of thinking.
I am just offering you
an opinion.
I'm just saying to you.
Because you're not on microphone,
but Semuju,
you are killing his.
I'm only saying that respect the context and the history in which we operate. Okay. Okay, that is just the reality.
Your microphones are not on.
No, his microphone is on.
He's not on. No.
So the law is a creature of culture and politics and power. Okay. And that's my conclusion.
We're kind of running, but I want to catch you on that one.
Okay.
Hold on. I mean, he has responded to you and Semuju particularly. But Angelo, if I put to you that you're commingling things, so to speak, because an army can be called upon at any time, and many countries call upon the army to intervene in an area. So it can really happen under good governance.
I think you can clarify.
For it.
I think the idea that you can clarify the circumstances in which a civilian with
go on.
A civilian, okay, who is armed, commits an offense which is deemed to be military in nature, can find themselves under the jurisdiction of a military court. I don't think that is an idea that you can just throw away. Okay? And I think that because of our history and context, it's worth considering, not simply dismissing.
Okay. So, to another lawyer in the studio, Felix Kaihura Safari, we have David Businge Kabagambe on X, formerly Twitter, says, why is it that a rebel leader, Mukuru, isn't before the court martial? I need help. So the main topic was the president's response, and is it true that these courts cannot manage instances like what Angela is talking about?
I think, Oscar, we failed to tackle the actual thing, which was the result of how we got into where we got by the Supreme Court. This was a constitutional appeal from the Court of Appeal, the Constitutional Appeal, the Constitutional Court, and Kabazguga and others were dissatisfied. And it goes well in term with what you're saying. I must say, this is one of the best jurisprudences that for posterity we shall enjoy as a nation. Like someone is asking, why isn't Mukuru in the court martial? Just like Honorable Katuntu actually earlier on stated that we have had these, we have had the 2020 bombings, 2010 bombings prosecuted very well and successfully, by the way. And we didn't have to go to the court martial. And then we are mixing up this with the what service leaders are looking at in their own kind of court martial they would wish or they should have. One thing for sure is that our laws, including the penal code, you know, prosecution is very key in whatever court you go to. Even when you appear at night armed with anything and you're just a mere robber, they call that, they at least make it capital. It is no longer simple robbery. You don't even have to carry any gun or anything, but for as long as you appear at anything that is deemed very dangerous, for example, that is to say a knife, you will be tried of what? Aggravated robbery, meaning it will be a capital offense. And what you all forget, how do we come up with people accepting court martial or wanting court martial? It goes back to what you have always discussed, Honorable Semjo, bail. You know, people think going to our civilian normal courts, you easily get bail, and therefore it will not serve as a deterrent to others because of easily getting bail, unlike the court martial. I hope we all agree on that. But I want to tell you that there is no way you can wake up and assume that because someone has been found with a gun, he should be taken to court martial. We have always, the country has had series of prosecutions in civilian courts of armed robbers with guns. It has no difference. By the way, a rebel has no, the difference between a rebel and a soldier is that a soldier is licensed to carry a gun. Exactly. Therefore, it's all about handling. They are all armed. Do we agree? And if they are all armed, our courts, they are trained to handle that. And what Justice Monica Mugenya, I think, attempted to say was that she even went ahead to talk about a serving military officer who has raped someone. For example, you're staying in Chanja and probably a soldier rapes someone. Justice Monica was of the view that actually that person shouldn't even be taken to court martial. That soldier should be taken to the normal courts because this is a civil, this is an offense that even civilians can, commit. So therefore, you should just take them to civilian courts. But now, going back to what everyone is interested in about the court martial, the court martial, in its own way, like Honorable Katuntu is saying, there is a lot that needs to be amended, Honorable Semjo. Let me give you one example. Are you aware, the UPDF Act, have you read the UPDF Act? Do you find it okay that the constitution of the High Command and the constitution of the council actually has names written in permanently?
And that is not changing.
Do you find that funny?
But it's not changing.
No, is that hold on, Dr. Serunkuma, probably maybe Dr. Serunkuma. You a scholar.
Continue. Continue,
teach,
Felix.
I teach law. I know, and I will tell you constitutionally, you cannot have a piece of law that is written to govern a nation, and above all, officers who are not born who aspire to join the UPDF, and one day they will find Mujisha Muntu as a permanent member of the Army Council. They will find Dr. Besije is a permanent member. He was a senior officer as well. So, if others, including those that probably, we are talking about these ones because they are popular. There are others who are not very popular, probably somewhere.
So what are you saying, Felix?
That needs to be amended. So when Honorable...
When?
No.
When, Yusuf, don't disrupt him.
Because right now, Honorable Lydia was talking about the UPDF amendment bill in Parliament that needs to be withdrawn. In my opinion, incorporating the Supreme Court's recommendations, and if I had an opportunity, I would also suggest the same. So an amendment to the UPDF Act is something that we shouldn't debate about, honestly. It should happen. And the constitution of the court-martial, as per now, you must appreciate that it has field court-martial, it has division court-martial, actually it begins with the unit disciplinary committees, UDCs. Now, those ones, everyone seems to be happy with UDCs because they are purely dealing with only serving combatants, not so?
Military.
But where everyone has an issue is where you are putting in civilians in the court martial.
As Lydia pointed out.
For me, that's where I have a problem.
Thank you, Felix.
Thank you.
So we are concluding the show. I'll finish. We had a lot more topics for discussion, but we'll finish. Lydia, let me give you another minute, and then I'll ask Abdul Katunt to close out. Then we can have a good shouting match at the end of the show.
The spirit where I stand is that we should never, at our level, be thinking of losers and winners in matters like this one. We should be always trying to find ways of finding solutions so that the country moves on and the country wins. Because we are all looking at DRC and we're asking ourselves, what's wrong with DRC? It's very easy to end up, when you want to look for losers and winners, it's very easy to end up with turbulence, and yet we want to move on as a country with peace and stability. That's why, for me, I think that, yes, we have a court ruling on the table. We should all take up what is due to whoever the actors are, and you do it right and make a contribution. I was just able to take an advantage of sharing what we discussed in the caucus. We want the UPDF bill withdrawn from Parliament. Whatever is meant for amendment is done, or inclusion, but also clarification of certain things, like we said in the caucus. What constitutes a service offense? It is listed. What constitutes the monopoly of the UPDF? If they say the ammunition, that is a monopoly. So we also list what's the monopoly of the UPDF. That's very important for Uganda. I don't know whether you're getting me. Because there are those words that have been...
Let me speak to them. Speak for them.
What's the monopoly of the UPDF?
I'm giving you an extra minute.
Lydia,
I'm giving you let me speak for them. You spoke as NRM caucus, so they are also correct in opposing what you spoke about.
I'm
so
not saying
you cannot dismiss it.
You asked me to give my view.
I've just clarified.
I'm not saying they should not oppose. I'm only emphasizing my position.
Right.
That we should always be winners and work for everybody to win, because we all have a contribution to make. Okay. So I don't know what you're correcting now.
That accept their opposition to you.
I'm not refused, but I'm also emphasizing what I stand for.
Okay.
That does not mean I don't explain what I stand for. What I think is that...
So, Abdul...
that's your space.
That's your space.
I also have my space. And I'm not going to allow anybody to enter my space because I believe in it. Have yours, but we should have a win-win at the end of the day.
You're asking for too much. Win-win.
And
a win-win with Serum Kuma.
So
it may not happen.
I'm just wondering.
Lydia. No.
To you in the MUSEVENI.
Lydia, last sentence.
No, on the issue of I think we are in agreement that people can express their displeasure on any ruling. not the one of the Supreme Court recently, but that does not mean that you do not respect the decision of court. Because we cannot run a lawless country. Somebody must put you
Agreed.
to order.
We are talking about Congo.
So that's so
Abdul,
we
final word on the capital gang.
Oscar, doing things in a bad face will always catch up with you eventually.
By the way, there's a comment here. Two of them says, imagine the irony, Bobby Wine in the court martial, but Mukulu isn't. Very funny and problematic. Then there's Levi Yaro as usual. How come we didn't have such conversations during President Idi Amin? I know that Levi Yaro wasn't even born at that time. And then also James Wabbs responds very quickly. We forget easily. They usually respond like that, both of them.
Well, maybe we need to tell Levi that there was that conversation, but there were no FMs.
Yeah.
There was no Twitter, there was an X, there was
Radio Cut.
there was even there was not even a phone. Anyway, let's say this. This conversation came about because, one, whereas the professed reasons of taking people to court-martial is that they have connived with the serving officers to commit an offense. That's the professed one. But has it been the reality or not? And if, for example, it is true that the people who were going to court-martial were actually those who had been caught committing crime with UPDF officers or serving officers, would we have this uproar or not? Because you see, we are moving away from the real conversation. And then we go to an academic discussion. The issue is, take for example these National Unity Platform people with the, who were picked during the campaigns and so on. Then they went to the court martial. They stayed there for 4 years without evidence. And eventually people are saying, is that the purpose of the court martial? Because that's the reality. So this whole thing, I must say, has been brought about by the court martial itself. They went away from what they were supposed to do, and they did a different thing. And now we are thrown. The whole thing has been, throwing us into some useless conversation. Why?
Okay.
Officers should realize, and this happened when we're enacting me and Segona, really, when we're having a private conversation, we feel guilty, this Public Order Management Act. Because we all agreed that we needed to regulate public gathering and so on, and we enacted the law in good faith. Somebody started using that provision enacted in good faith to do things which are not allowed. To say, no, you've not sought permission, and you are saying, no,
nowhere.
It is not anywhere. So
I have to thank
think,
you.
Yeah, the problem, as you thank me,
it's
is
midday.
The general court martial should pick its lessons. That even where you have some legitimate concern, like Angelo was saying, it has been vulgarized by what they are doing.
Thank you.
And they brought all this to the country.
Honorable Katuntu, Honorable Anyoto, Honorable Semuju. Thank you. Dr. Serunkuma. Thank you. Felix Kaihura Safari. Thank you, Angelo Izama. The listeners of Capital Gang, thank you so much. Star Cafe for powering the gang. Thank you so much. I am